Joining me now is Facebook's top spokesman, Vice President of Global Affairs, Nick Clegg. Mr. Clegg, thank you so much for joining me. Let's start with whistleblower Frances Haugen, her testimony to Congress this week. She said Instagram harms children. She detailed a lot of troubling findings from internal reports, including that almost 1 in 5 U.S. teenagers who use Instagram say that Instagram makes them feel very or somewhat worse about themselves. Is that acceptable to you?
No, I don't think it should be acceptable to anyone if a teenager is in distress and feels more so when they use any form of communication. But of course, what Frances Haugen was talking about, what that internal discussion paper was referring to, is something that we've known, everybody I think has known for a long period of time. External researchers have confirmed this for some time, which is that for the overwhelming majority of teenagers, actually using Instagram is a positive experience, even when they're suffering from sleeplessness, anxiety, depression, and so on. It either makes no difference or it actually makes them feel better. But what we do, the reason we do the research, and I think any parent watching this would intuitively understand that if a teenager is not feeling good about themselves, when they then go and compare themselves to others, for a minority of them, in a minority of the time, it might make them feel a bit worse. And that's precisely why we do the research, to work out what we can do. We can't change human nature, and human nature, of course, you always compare yourself to others, particularly those who are more fortunate to yourself. But what we can do is change our product, which is exactly what we're doing, of course.
Yes, and I want to get into that. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I have a binder here full of the research that you're talking about that was released, and I understand it is a minority of users. But these are vulnerable children. What are you doing to change that, to change the way that you operate your platform so that those minority, as small as they are, don't feel the way they feel when they use it?
Well, first thing we've done, we've paused work on something called Instagram Kids. We actually think that's part of the solution, but we understand the concerns are such at the moment that we need to just press pause, listen to experts, consult with others, explain our intentions, and so on. In the meantime, we're going to introduce new controls for adults of teens on an optional basis, obviously, so that adults can supervise what their teens are doing online. Secondly, we're going to introduce something which I think will make a considerable difference, which is where our systems see that a teen is looking at the same content over and over again, and it's content which may not be conducive to their well-being, we will nudge them to look at other content. And the third additional and new measure we're introducing is something called Take a Break, where we will be prompting teens to simply take a break from using Instagram. And I think these are exactly the kind of things which are in line with ongoing work we've been doing in cooperation with experts for many years, that we clearly want to redouble our efforts going forward.
Are what you just listed, these are things that you are going to do in the future, or things that you already have in place? Because this survey was published internally 2 years ago.
Yeah, and we've done many things, of course, since then, which is precisely why we do the research. And But have you already implemented what you just listed, or is that going to happen in the future? Things like nudging children away from harmful content. No, I was answering a question because you asked me what we're going to do. Those are our future plans.
Okay.
What we've done since that research, of course, we've constantly introduced new tools, for instance, so that people can hide certain words, can make sure that they're not connected with people who they don't want to be connected with, to just limit their contact with people who they don't want to be connected to. We now provide automatic prompts where someone's literally, if someone's, for instance, looking at material relating to eating disorders, they will get prompts on their feeds to guide them towards helpful information, resources from experts and specialist organizations who can help them. This is obviously a journey. We're all on this journey. The fact that, over the last 10, 15 years, millions of youngsters are now online in a way that they were not before means we all face this challenge. We face this challenge together. We have no incentive other than trying to make that experience as positive and safe as possible.
Well, Frances Haugen says your incentive is profit. Your bottom line, and continuing to line the pockets of the people who work there. What's your response to that?
Well, I don't think a company that only places, profit above everything else would do what we've done. We've invested over the last several years $13 billion in this kind of work, in making sure that our platform is safe to use. $13 billion, to put that in context, is more than the total revenue of Twitter over the last 4 years. We now have 40,000 people, that's what, more than twice the number of staffers working on Capitol Hill who work on these issues.
So-
We do world-beating research to understand exactly the interaction, the complex interaction between individuals, their individual circumstances of their lives, and the use of social media. And we are constantly iterating in order to improve our products. As I say, we cannot with a wave of the wand make everyone's life perfect. What we can do is improve our products so that our products are as safe and as enjoyable to use wherever we can improve them.
And I want to talk about some potential solutions in a moment. But first, I have to ask, Frances Haugen is now poised to meet with the January 6th committee. I understand you have said that only those who broke the law in and around January 6th are to blame for the insurrection. But just a simple yes or no. Did Facebook's algorithms amplify or spread pro-insurrection voices ahead of January 6th?
Let me be clear, because there's been a lot of, I think, somewhat misleading discussion about what the algorithms do. And they're algorithms, there's hundreds, thousands of them in Facebook, as much as there are in many online companies. But what the ranking algorithms do, in other words, that's the crucial algorithms that help decide what you see more prominently on your news feed on Facebook,
Right.
Than other pieces of content. If you removed the algorithms, which is, I think, Frances Haugen's one of her central recommendations, the first thing that would happen is that people would see more, not less, hate speech, more, not less, misinformation. Because these algorithms are designed precisely to work almost like giant spam filters to identify and deprecate bad content. And, you know, I really do think we should remember that technology, of
Right.
course it has downsides, but it also has
Right.
very powerful positive effects.
But my
And it's
question
one
is
of the reasons
specifically
why
about January 6th. Did the algorithms that are in place amplify pro-insurrection voices ahead of January 6th? Yes or no?
Look, given we have thousands of algorithms and you have millions of people using this, I can't give you a yes or no answer to the individual personalized feeds that each person uses. We cooperate with law enforcement, of course, to give them content that might have shown up on our platform. But let's be clear, of course, January the 6th, the responsibility for that is for the people who broke the law, who inflicted the violence, who aided and abetted them, who encouraged them, both in politics and in the media.
Yeah, and I get that, and I don't think anybody is saying
that.
anything different, but is it a problem that Facebook, that you're not really sure if your platform allowed it to fester and amplify what ended up as this huge attack?
What I was simply saying is that the algorithm, the whole point, of course, of Facebook is that each person's news feed is individual to them. It's like a sort of individual fingerprint, and that's basically determined by the interaction of your choices, your friends, your family, the groups you choose to be part of, and those ranking algorithms that I referred to earlier. So I can't give a sort of generic answer to each person's individual feeds. What I can say is that where we see content that we think is relevant to the investigations of law enforcement, of course we cooperate with them. But if I may, if our algorithms are as sort of nefarious as some people suggest, why is it that it's precisely those systems that have succeeded to reduce hate speech, the prevalence of hate speech on our platforms, to as little as 0.05%? That means for every 10,000 bits of content, you'd only see 5 bits of hate speech. I wish we could eliminate it to 0.
So
I just don't. We're not going to, you know, with a third of the world's population on our platforms.
Mr.
Of course,
Clark,
we're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly of human nature on our platforms.
I want to get to some solutions. I know you said that in the future you are going to have a voluntary option for parents to have more control over their children on your platforms. Do you support legislation requiring parental consent for children under 16 to use social media?
Of course, if lawmakers want to set down rules for us and for TikTok and for YouTube and for Twitter about exactly how young people should operate online, we of course will abide by the law. And I think it's right that this is a subject of great bipartisan interest and discussion, because there's nothing more important to any of us than our kids. And I think, by the way, regulation will be very useful in many other areas.
Okay, so let me ask another specific question on that, because I have specifics, because I think it's important. Do you support legislation allowing regulators access to these algorithms that you've been talking about, access to Facebook algorithms, the ones that they use to amplify content to users? Should regulators have access to those algorithms?
I think broadly the answer is yes. We need greater transparency. So the systems that we have in place, as I alluded to earlier, including not only the 40,000 people we employ on this, but also the multi-billion-dollar investments we've made into algorithmic systems, machine learning systems, they should be held to account, if necessary, by regulations, so that people can match what our systems say they're supposed to do from what actually happens.